Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. I'm Lisa Hinson. I'm the president of Hinson Limited Public Relations, and I'm also proud to serve as a member of the CMC Board of Trustees. We're so pleased to bring you today's forum, made possible by one of those original 13 CMC founders, Mary Lazarus. Mary, you have done and do so much, and your impact continues to be felt so much in this community. And I'm so pleased to recognize you today and also ask that you stand just so we can give you an applause. I know you don't like this, but we want to give you a real round of applause. I also want to take a moment to recognize Frances Strickland, the former First Lady of the state of Ohio. Frances, would you stand so we can acknowledge you? Thank you for being here. For those of you joining us by live stream, we're coming to you today from our beautiful, beautiful new home in Columbus's historic Italian village, the Ellis. What a great place we're in today. We welcome all of you in the room and those of you who are joining us online. The sponsors for today are the Mary Lazarus Legacy and Civic Engagement Fund, celebrating women in society, Ruling Our Experiences, also known as ROCKS, the Girl Scouts of Ohio's Heartland, Battelle, and the YWCA Columbus. What a great group of sponsors. Let's give them a hand. We appreciate the Ellis for having us today, and we're also grateful to the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation and the Columbus Dispatch for presenting our live stream, which is being carried on our social media platforms today. Let's thank everybody. Let's give a big round of applause. Everybody I mentioned helped makes this happen. So what's on the mind of Central Ohio's Gen Z girls? And where will they take America? We'll find out with today's forum. Gen Z girls lead the way. Generation Z, the Zoomers, were born between 1997 and 2012. I have one of my own. They are now between 11 and 26 years old. Their formative years have been shaped by a pandemic and a divided America. Today, we turn CMC over to Central Ohio Gen Z girls for an unfiltered look about how this rising generation sees the world, themselves, and the future. To introduce our panel, please welcome the dynamic Dr. Lisa Hinkleman, the founder and director of today's sponsor, Ruling Our Experiences, to the podium. Dr. Hinkleman, come on up. Good to see you.
Good afternoon and welcome. This is a fantastic gathering of people who care about the future of girls. You're here because you are the mentors, the parents, the role models, and advocates who are part of the work of making the world safer, more equitable, and more empowering for the next generation of female leaders. I'm Dr. Lisa Hinkleman, the founder and CEO at Ruling Our Experiences. ROCKS is a national nonprofit organization founded and headquartered right here in Columbus, Ohio. We deliver evidence-based programming for girls in grades 5 through 12 in more than 500 schools across 30 states. Also, we conduct large-scale national research centered on girls, and we use that research to educate and train the adults who impact and influence girls' lives. In 2017, we surveyed more than 10,000 girls about the issues impacting their lives in a survey called the Girls Index. We learned a lot about the behaviors, the attitudes, the perceptions of girls in grades 5 through 12. A lot has happened in the world since 2017, and next week, on October 17th, we'll be releasing the findings from our next iteration of the study. The 2023 Girls Index includes new data from 17,502 girls across the country. It's the largest survey of its kind. And what you'll see in this research is that things have gotten more difficult for girls overall. They're reporting higher levels of sadness and depression, increased reports of stress and pressure, and declining confidence. These findings were especially concerning amongst the youngest girls, the 5th through 8th graders. They evidenced the most significant declines in confidence and the most significant increases in social media use. I hope you'll download the report next week and share it with those who work with and care about girls. And while there's aspects of this research that are frustrating and confusing and infuriating and sad, there's also hope. The hope is the individual and collective action that each of us are taking to make a positive impact in the lives of girls. The acceptance, the encouragement, the caring, the support that we're giving to girls makes more of a difference than you know, and the research supports this as well. And there's hope when we get to be in the presence of these amazing leaders, advocates, and change agents. Let's meet the girls who will provide us a snapshot into their worlds, and I'm honored to have the chance to introduce you to them. First, the none other than the Camille Seals, the leader, the head of school for our Columbus School for Girls. Next, we have an Ohio State University student who majors in international business and Chinese, Mercy Cala Avila. Next, we have the co-chair of the Black Girl Think Tank and an honors senior at Pickerington North High School, Lillian Corpening Morgan. Next, we have a high school student athlete and a Columbus School for Girls student, Olivia Graham. And finally, we have Miss Columbus Teen USA 2023, Frankie Madosky. And I'll turn it over to Camille to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I have to say, the panelists are far more impressive than I am, despite Lisa's gracious introduction. And so I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have. They have some good wisdom to share with us. So, ladies, let's jump in, and we're going to start our conversation honoring that today is the International Day of the Girl Child. And this is an international day where we focus on girls and young women and how to elevate them and elevate their needs around the world. This day was founded by the United Nations to center the voices of girls and young women in conversations all over the globe. So as you're thinking about being voices in the context of that conversation, what's something that you want to make sure that everyone hears, knows, and understands about girls and young women of your generation?
I think we're all waiting to see who's going to talk first, but I guess I'm gonna take the lead. I think that the girls, Gen Z girls, or just girls in general, I think we're the leaders of tomorrow. We are the most pivotal part of the society right now. Like with social media, with just things going on in general, the oldest of our generation are going into the workforce, and the youngest are starting in elementary school. So I think we're just paving the path for whoever comes after us, and we're just using whoever comes before us to like stay in that road, to just keep going and just be the leaders of tomorrow.
I absolutely agree with that. So what I would say about Gen Z girls is that we are growing up in a very rough situation, and we are becoming very empathetic and emotionally aware. And I think we are taking the experiences that we are being dealt to really look at what we have been taught as a generation and how we treat girls and how we treat people of color and people with disabilities. And we are becoming more aware of the issues that we need to solve, and so we're opening ourselves up to have uncomfortable conversations and really create some change.
I believe that girls today are kind of on the same standpoint. We are stronger, we are growing, and we want to become better as like human beings in general. And I think the Gen Z girls are really trying to make a difference in women and how society sees women.
I would also say that we aren't waiting for the change to happen. We are the change today, and we are change makers now.
So I do have more questions, but we could stop right there. So good. So so much of what you said we're going to talk about throughout the time that we have here together. But I'd love for you to kind of flip that question and think about, what do you think are misconceptions that people have about young women in your generation? And what should we be doing to address some of those misconceptions?
I think a common misconception, especially like in high school environments, is that girls are constantly going to be dramatic and that we are overly emotional as like human beings. And I think there's a bad response from educators in buildings. And I think one of the things that we could do to like change that is understanding that we are human beings as well. We're gonna have emotions, just not the way that you are, because you're a mature adult. And as someone who's a high school student, we're not always completely matured emotionally. And so I think we need educators in buildings to understand that we are still growing and learning as well.
I kind of mentioned it before, but social media, when all the Gen Z in our generation was born, internet was already established, social media was already established, and so we're like the first generation to be 100% online in comparison to like millennials and anyone before us. So I think that with social media in mind, a lot of people think of not just girls in like the Gen Z generation, but just anyone in the Gen Z generation to be chronically online. It's just a bad habit. Everyone's on their phones, all these things. But I think that is a very common misconception. I think that not all of us are chronically online, but I do think that a vast majority of us try to be online for good reasons. For example, with all the stuff happening in the Middle East, I feel like a lot of us are taking social media platforms to get it out there for people to know what's going on, to get awareness out. So I think that a lot of Gen Z is trying to make that change and to make social media a positive thing, not so negative.
So I think Frankie said something that I sort of believe as well, about how girls are viewed as very dramatic or sensitive. And I think Generation Z, we are coming to a point where with emotional intelligence, we are telling educators and telling adults how we're feeling and that we are aware what is going on in our environment, and we are only reacting the way we know how to. And so I think sometimes it takes some adults to open up their ears to really hear how girls especially are talking about what's happening with them. And I think we all need to be aware that because someone might seem more sensitive, it's because they're more emotionally intelligent. And why don't we have that conversation instead of blaming us for our emotions and our feelings?
Going off of the social media point, Gen Z girls do use social media to express themselves and express how they're feeling, and also advocate for each other, advocate for what we believe in. And so I think that is another aspect of what she said about social media.
So let's pick up the thread about social media, because I hear everything that you're saying, and we know that there's data out there that tells us that social media has really challenging, problematic impacts on girls specifically. And Dr. Hinkleman talked a little bit about that research. We know the CDC put out a study last year that nearly 3 in 5 teenage girls felt persistent sadness in 2021, double the rate of boys. So how are you in your lives balancing all of what you said, you know, the importance of being engaged in social media so you understand the world around you, so that you can use your voice and share your perspectives and take care of yourself? Because there's a lot on social media that the data also tells us is harmful to girls. So how are you balancing that? How do you and other women in your generation balance the need to be engaged and also to practice self-care and protection for yourself?
I think me personally, at least, I decide to pay more attention to things that are going to, I guess, educate me on social media. So instead of my TikTok stream being a bunch of like random videos, there's more cooking videos and cleaning videos and things like that. So I think keeping your social media clean and keeping your social media away from, I guess, the dramatic experiences that can be on there helps you as a person in your own personal life outside of the social media world.
I think that statistic is really interesting because when I think about girls versus boys, girls are automatically more emotionally aware. And that kind of stems from toxic masculinity. So I'm wondering if the boys in that statistic were even comfortable enough to express that they weren't.
Go for it. Go for it, Olivia.
I wonder if the boys in that statistic aren't comfortable expressing themselves in that way like girls are. So is it more equal?
Kind of going off of what Frankie was talking about with like keeping your social media clean, I feel like for me personally, with my TikTok, all of my social media, my Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff, I feel like I try to maintain myself, keep myself informed, look at things that I enjoy, sports like volleyball. I love to run. I watch all those things. Like I try to keep up with things that keep me interested. Like if that's models, if that's things that might affect how I look at myself, well, that's on me. But I think it's kind of like controversial. Like you could be looking at things like models and like things that will make you like feel self-conscious about yourself. But in the long run, like you're gonna overcome that. And there's things out in the real world as well that will make you equally or even like more self-conscious about yourself than like social media. Like even if like stuff in the real world is going to be amplified by social media, but it's still happening in real time. So regardless of if it's on social media, like we're still going to see it in the real world. So it just depends up to you and to how you want your like social media to be going on, how you like go about that.
So I definitely agree, and me and social media have battled for the few years that I have had it. But I think a lot of the issues stemming with girls and social media started because of COVID. And, you know, you can't go outside. You can't go to the grocery store. Like, I know my mother would wipe down the door handles, and she was like, no, we're not risking it. And so you become so isolated. And so, you don't naturally think, oh, I'm going to look online. And then a few minutes becomes a few hours, and you get wrapped up in this cycle. But I know for me, where I didn't have that issue as much, what I struggled with social media was I was on it a lot during the issue of George Floyd's passing and taking all of that in, and you just feel really hopeless. You feel like, oh, there's a new thing every day, and how can we possibly worry about social studies if I'm worried about being safe? And I think for me, sometimes I just have to take breaks because I need to focus on the good. Because if we're always caught up in our insecurities, our negatives, and real world issues that are happening, we can't move forward. And so I like to also try and have a clean social media, but also a social media centered around girls and advocacy and things that are going to make me feel hopeful and encouraged about what we have going on in our society. Otherwise, I think it'll just eat away at us. And so that's what I do.
I really appreciate that piece about searching for the stories that edify and that strengthen you. And you said something, Lillian, that made me think about the importance of relationships with other girls. And so I've stumbled across this quote from a young adult fiction writer who said, "There is one thing stronger than magic, and that's sisterhood." And I'm curious to hear from you as you're navigating the world around you. What have your experiences been with other girls? And have you found or have you been able to develop a sisterhood among young women in your schools and your spaces that help lift you up and show you the value and the importance of women banding together. Today is an example of that. The Girl Scouts are here, CSG is here, the YWCA is here, ROX is here. These are women banding together to support girls and young women. How are you experiencing that in your lives today?
Going to CSG, it's almost been like sisterhood is inevitable. Some of the girls that I'm still in class with, I've been at school with them for more than 15 years. So going into my senior year, being with these girls has made such an impact on my life, especially now as we're applying to colleges. We have fall sports, the same amount of classwork, regardless of if we're applying to colleges or not. We've come together closer than ever. And the difference between, I think, friendship and sisterhood is friendship, you have to maintain it. But sisterhood, when we go off to college and we come back for alumni weekend, we'll leave off like we never left, you know? Like, it'll still be that same friendship, that same bond that we had when we were at CSG in senior year.
So sisterhood is something very near and dear to my heart. If you asked me a couple of years ago, I would be like, whatever. I don't really have any friends or any sisters. But because of my organization, Black Girl Rising, I have gotten to be a part of a really healthy organization with girls who look like me, because in elementary school I was one of 3 Black girls, and I really had to be like, oh, okay, and but there was also that competition there of we have to excel amongst the space that we are in. And so joining my organization, I was very closed off at first. I did not speak at any of the meetings. I was very quiet, and it took some time and a lot of love, and I really got to blossom into myself, and I got to, and you said, do any of the girls encourage you? I have girls who want to go into STEM and who are looking to go to Harvard. Every day that I'm with the girls that I'm a part of in my program is like a happy day for me. I really love the community we have with each other, and even when we leave and we go to college or we move to DC, we create this foundation of togetherness, and I know I'm going to be okay because I have like 4 different girls I can call about this issue. And I think it's really important that girls have a foundation of love and togetherness and sisterhood when we're growing up.
I think sisterhood is kind of like having that safe place. So you have a group of girls that you can talk to, you can tell them anything, and you can trust them. Growing up in Columbus City schools, I can say I probably did not have that group of girls till I got to college, actually. I'm a first-year student at Capitol, and I probably met my best friends for the rest of my life there. Sorry.
You don't have to apologize for feeling feelings.
But throughout my elementary, middle school, and high school experience, I can say there's a lot of girls who are more interested in other things than they are a sisterhood. And I think going to college has really made me realize what a true sisterhood is.
So a few years ago, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I joined an organization. I volunteered for an organization called Girls on the Run. The only reason I joined was because my little cousin, Norma, she goes to the same Catholic school that I did in Grandview. And she was like, Mercy, will you please volunteer? I want to do this, but I'm nervous. I know it's all my classmates, but I really want you to be there. Will you please just volunteer and be a coach? So I made the grand decision to go after my classes in college. I would come stop by for maybe an hour, 2 hours, just run with all the girls with her and all the girls in her class. And then 2 years passed, and then at the beginning of this year, I decided to send my resume and an application to Katie over at Girls on the Run, and then she sent my information over to Sarah Hyder, my executive director. And so at the beginning of this fall semester, I started interning at Girls on the Run. And for me, Girls on the Run is sisterhood. That building, that place, that whole program means so much to me. Over the past 2 years, even though it hasn't been that long, I love seeing my little cousin just like flourish and talk to me and make conversation about things, and all the other girls in her class just taking pictures, listening to music, running around, being healthy, and just doing like exercise, but learning pivotal, like important things in their life at such a young age.
So awesome. And one of the things I heard you all talk about is the different spaces and the communities that you're in, and how you have found that sisterhood and those connections, whether it's at school or at your university, in nonprofit organizations that you work with. So as we're thinking about place and Columbus, this city that we all inhabit together, we know that it's one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. For those who are listening online and are in this room who are responsible for planning the future of Columbus, what are the things that they should be thinking about and keeping in mind so that they build a city that is ready for your generation when you do go fully into the workplace, and for the girls who are coming behind you? What do they need to do for Norma to get the city ready for her?
Oh, they need to be ready for Norma. She loves her queens, her slay. She loves saying all those things, but she is one tough, smart cookie. I love her. So I'm the oldest in my family. I have a little brother, and then my little cousin Norma, she actually lives with us. But when I'm away off at college, she comes home and she tells my mom, she sits in my seat where I like study and stuff when I come home, and she's like, "Hey Auntie, like I'm Mercy today." And she's like, "Yeah, you are like in Mercy's spot, but no, you're gonna be better than Mercy." She always tries, she uses me as like her like role model, but I honestly feel like she's gonna go above and beyond. She's gonna be so much better than I am, and I always try to tell her, what you're doing right now, you could do so much better. You could do so much better than me, and I can be your role model. I can be like your little bar, your minimum, but I think you can do so much better than that.
Hello? Okay, so I also have a similar experience. You know, my mother also pushed me like your mother pushes Norma, where she would tell me, I'm not raising you to be ordinary. I'm raising you to be extraordinary. You know, she would tell me this, and I would be like 5 years old. I'm like, okay. But I think we need to prepare to experience really dynamic girls, people who are going to challenge you and say, I know we've been doing this for a couple of years, but why are we doing this like that? We need to look at how you need to be prepared for how things are going to change, and you know, change is good. And I think girls of our generation are only going to push the limits of what we can do. We are always going to strive for excellency. We're always going to strive for improvement. And I think, you know, better be ready for us.
I think, honestly, for Columbus to better prepare for Gen Z girls is letting us grow, giving us opportunities to become better human beings, to become better individuals, whether that's as a group or on our own, obviously. I think Columbus could really do some promotion on promoting women.
I think that, yes, Columbus is growing, but we also need to improve what is already in Columbus, specifically when it comes to Columbus City Schools, because people can come in, can move out, but if we want to build up Columbus and not leave what is already in Columbus behind, we have to build it up to improve Columbus as a whole.
That's awesome. And I wrote down this quote that I'm going to use in my letter. I'll shout you out, Lillian. But we need to be ready to experience dynamic girls. That it's just a really powerful statement that I hope we all take with us when we leave today. So sort of picking up again on this connection to Columbus and change making, if you could set the agenda for the legislature, for the politicians who are making decisions, here we go. What are the greatest changes that you feel like need to happen in Columbus, in Ohio, in the nation? What do you think is the greatest concern for young women of your generation?
When I was in middle school at CCPSG, Columbus City Prep Academy for Girls, When I was there, we had a program called Aaron Pink, very similar to like Rocks, that sort of thing, but it was all African Americans. So we're focusing on minority communities, and I think if we want an entire generation of girls to grow, we need to see minority growth. We need to include minorities. We need to understand that they are still a part of everybody else that's in our community, and we also need to have a better understanding on colorism.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm so glad Frankie said that. So I can only speak to my experience as a black girl in Columbus. And I think we are growing up in a very hard time for us where we don't have to only deal with the struggles with being a girl, but we have to deal with the struggles of being black, and that's just a real reality. And the issues that we face and the amount of just death and sex trafficking and, you know, depression and anxiety and stillbirths, like we have a lot going on, and we need more attention, I think. But not just, oh, let us come into the community and save these poor little black girls, because, you know, we can save ourselves. But we really need your support and your love, because that's all we really need. We can handle the rest. We've been doing it for so long, but we need Columbus to look at the spaces we're creating, like you said with Columbus City Schools. Like, we have doctors and psychologists and neurosurgeons, but nobody's paying attention to them, and nobody's helping them. And if they have to worry about taking care of siblings or staying safe in their community, how can they worry about that? And I think we really need to develop some empathy for girls of color in Columbus.
Sorry, quick stem off of her idea real quick. I think just schools, specifically Columbus City Schools, we need to pay more attention to those students. Some of the best students can come out of the lowest income district. And I think that's something that Columbus should recognize, is that even though a student is from Columbus City, they still have the opportunity to learn and grow the same way as somebody from a private school district.
Thank you. So I've been given the signal that we have one last question. And so I'd love to shift to thinking about the future. And when you imagine the world not as it is, but as it should be, what are you hopeful for the generation of girls that come after you?
This question has me stuck. It's a very complex question. It has many layers to it.
Yeah, I'll reframe it. So you talked about the world needing to be ready for dynamic girls, for girls who have voice, who are not waiting to be the change, they're making the changes now. When you imagine the future that you would want for girls and young women, a future where that environment, where the world is conducive to that behavior, where it's okay for a woman to have emotion, where it's okay for her to have voice, what do you imagine that world looks like, or what do you hope is the pathway to that world? So it's an open-ended question, but just tell us what you imagine about the future if all of the things that your generation thinks girls and young women need are sort of addressed.
For me, this forum, this panel is what the future is. This is what, like, just this conversation, just today, is what I imagine it to be. Just having girls voice their thoughts, unfiltered, 100%, just giving it all out.
I think that's super important. I think having just like, even if you create a social media forum through some of our favorite social medias that we use, like Instagram and TikTok, as somebody who's part of Gen Z, that's probably the top ones to use. But I think having something that directs girls in the right direction on social media. Our social media is filled with other things that aren't really directing us in the right direction. And I think if we have something that's pointing us where we need to go, we'll grow.
My dream of all dreams for the future is that we're going to have a world that is not only safe but loving, and that there's going to be a table where we can all sit equally and discuss and communicate and grow together. If we can create the space like today, then we can see the change and we can see the growth. So I hope that we are able to get to a place, despite all of our differences and our struggles and our diversity, that we can become one, truly.
I hope that there's a seat for all of us at the table, and we don't have to bring our folding chair to the table, and that there's already a seat for us, because we are the future, and the future is female.
Beautiful. So as is our tradition, we are going to shift to taking questions from the audience. And so there is a microphone back in the corner if you'd like to ask a question to our panelists, and I believe we also have questions coming in from online.
Okay, my name is Mantra Moody, so I will be curating questions online. So if anyone has any questions in the room, please line up behind me. All right, my first question is there anyone who inspires you or influences you, or someone who influenced you growing up?
I honestly would have to say my mom. Props to my mom. She's here today, which I really appreciate, but she has always told me to be better for myself, always told me that I need to learn and grow from my own experiences, and told me how to be a better woman, and taught me everything I know today, and I really appreciate her for that.
For me as well, it's gonna have to be my mom, who also is here with me today. She is my best friend and my number one person in life. She is an immigrant from Honduras, and honestly, just from that, like her stories, everything that she tells me, she came here to this country to have a better future for me, to give me everything. And honestly, I couldn't thank her more for everything that she does for me.
So I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to say my founder and leader, Sister Fran, who is here with me. She knew I was going to do that. She really caught me at a time where I was really young and I did not speak. And I would come to these meetings that my mom made me go to, and I did not enjoy because I did not want to talk to anybody. And she would be like, "Well, Lillian, what do you think?" And clearly I'm being quiet, everyone, and not speaking for a reason. But she would push me, and she would push me. And one of our little things that we do, we have a pearl ceremony, and we talk about how the oyster creates pearls by being pushed around, and it's caught up in muck, and it's kicked around, and nobody cares about it. But from that pressure, you create a pearl. And she told me, to make a pearl of my life. And she was somebody who really pushed me to be better. And when you have somebody who's always going to ride for you to have a voice and to speak and to say all of the thoughts that you have, even if you don't want to say them, it really has shaped my path in a way that I don't think originally it was going to be, but it's something I'm really grateful for.
I'm gonna go back to the mom's trend. My mom hustles. My mom hustles at home, out of the home, at work. She hustles. And so she inspires me to do the same. And that drive and that determination, I will definitely carry throughout my life in whatever I do. And I can truly say I want to be her when I grow up. I know that she wants me to be better than her, but I want to be her when I grow up.
All right, you guys got me tearing up back here. Okay, next question. It's kind of a serious question, so get ready, all right? Our country right now is very divided, more than it's been in a long time. What do you think needs to happen to bring our country back together?
Understanding that we are all one group of individuals. We are all part of the same country. We're all particularly live in a state, in a city within the state. I think understanding that there's not, just because there's a demographic change, doesn't mean we're different from somebody else in a negative aspect. We're still the same human being. We still think the same way. We still feel the same way. We still have emotions. And I think creating a unity is understanding that we are still one, even though we are from different demographics.
I agree, although I want to add something onto that. I definitely think we should create a unity, but I think we also do acknowledge that we do need to acknowledge that we are different, and there's nothing wrong with being different, but we have to acknowledge, certain things about who we all are and different experiences that we have to be able to meet each other equally. We can't become one if we don't address the issues that have stemmed from being divided.
All right, ladies, I think I'm next up. First, I just want to say, I think I speak for all of us in saying we truly appreciate all of you stepping up, and I know it takes a lot of courage to really, truly share your heart. So first, thank you for being here today. My name is Jessica McCombs. I am with the city's newest women's professional volleyball team, the Columbus Fury, which is part of the Pro Volleyball Federation. Yeah, you can clap. So first, I want to start my question with a statistic. In a study done by Nielsen Sports, Gen Z is the leading generation that believes women's sports will be as popular as men's sports. Come on. As this generation also values accessibility and empowerment, how might leaders and female athletes of the Columbus Fury best partner with a generation that could not only bring this new team to the forefront of the city, but also help change the climate for female social injustices?
I think not setting up sporting events as a man's sport, as you're promoting men's basketball or men's volleyball or men's football, that kind of thing. I think if you promote it as something that is empowering women, not just women playing a sport, I think it'll gain a lot more engagement.
So for me personally, I played sports in high school. I ran track and I played volleyball all through from like 4th grade up until my senior year of high school. And now at OSU, I still am active and I still I play intramural volleyball and I do all of those fun things. So volleyball is near and dear to my heart. But kind of going off of what Frank is saying, I think just making sure that it's known that women are like also up there. Women's sports are always going to be up there, regardless of if men, like for volleyball specifically, men's volleyball isn't as watched as women's volleyball is. But then there also is differences, for example, with soccer, basketball, all that inequality in the sports, I think can be started. It's just started from like how just misogyny and just how men's sports are better. It's more competitive, all like more aggressive. But in reality, I think it just needs to be kind of what Frankie was saying. It just needs to be better promoted towards women and to empowering women.
Thank you, ladies.
She a little tall. I just want to say thank you, ladies. This has been informative for me as a mother. So thank you for being you. I'm actually here for advice. I'm Destiny, owner of the Brow Boutique in Bexley. So if you need your eyebrows done, come see me. Okay. So here is my question. I am a millennial mother raising a Gen Z daughter. I'm having a hard time connecting with my daughter. The emotions I don't know how to respond to. I do see her point of view, but how do I get her to see my point of view so that I can help her?
I am not a panelist, but I see you.
I had a lot of these talks with my mom growing up. We did not see eye to eye for a long time. But I can say it comes with age. Say everything you want to say now, and when she gets older, I promise she'll listen. And she'll take everything you said for account as soon as she graduates, I promise.
what to say. There's so many things. But also I love that you actually asked the question, because I think that shows how much you care about your daughter to be able to want to communicate with her. I think there comes a point where for every girl and mother dynamic that with age, whether you're graduating or not, you start to see your mother as a person and as a human with her own experiences, her own thoughts, her own traumas, and she no longer becomes, the person you cry to. I mean, you can still cry to her, but, you start to have these really in-depth conversations. But with her seeing you, you need to also see her, not just as a child, as your child, but, as somebody who you've helped develop. And you just got to hope that you've taught her all the right things and said all of the lovely things, but you also just have to engage in a conversation with her where you have to be like, listen, like, I'm a person, you're a person, and we need to be able to communicate with each other. Like, whether or not that is, I think, what did I do with my mom one time? We sat down with journals, and we wrote in journals to each other so that we couldn't say, because our emotions were so high, we couldn't just say whatever we thought. We had to really process it, write it down. And with that, I got to see, like, oh, she loves me. Like, I know she loves me, but, like, even when I'm so upset with her and she is so upset with me, like, I'm a loved person. And I think you just need to find the way to communicate for you, whether that is activity-based, whether that is journals, whether that is, okay, I'm going to set a timer, you get 5 minutes, and then I get 5 minutes, and we got to figure this out. But I think it just has to be based with love and based with open communication.
Yeah, definitely going off of that, make sure you keep that line of communication open so that she's not afraid to come to you when something goes wrong or something happens. As long as you keep that open line of communication, you're good. Because again, it comes with time, and then there's a point in time where she will become almost your best friend. Like, I can confidently say that my mom is somebody I go to all the time. Because I just remember, like, riding in the car to school sometimes in middle school, dead silence.
My current situation.
I was not a morning person at all. It was terrible. And even on the ride home from school, she would ask me, oh, how was your day? Fine. It's not good. It was not good. But then there was a point in time where it just clicked. And we're like best friends now, so it's fine. But as long as you keep that open line of communication, you're good.
Thank you.
I think just staying patient is really important. Just understanding that it's going to take time to get there.
Well, thank you everyone so much. I told you that they were going to be full of wisdom, and what an incredible conversation that we've had, ladies. So thank you for your vulnerability and oh, look at that, standing ovation. And I think we're going to turn it over to Kennedy.
So hello, good morning, afternoon, I think. My name is Kennedy Watkins. I am a recipient of the Gold Award, a current junior at Ohio Wesleyan, and I will be closing us out for today. So in 2023, being a Gen Z girl means navigating a world of unprecedented change, challenges, and opportunities. So what does it truly mean to be a Gen Z girl today? First and foremost, it means being a part of a generation that sees the world through a lens of social justice and equality. We believe in the power of our voices and the ability to drive meaningful change in society.
We understand that the world is interconnected and our actions can have a global impact, as we heard from some of our panelists today. But how does the world see us? Often we're viewed as a generation glued to our screens, addicted to social media, or dismissed as overly idealistic. However, there's so much more to us than meets the eye. We see our screens not as a distraction, but as a tool for activism, education, and innovation. During 2020, I used technology to complete my Gold Award for Girl Scouts. I created video tutorials and zoomed in on classrooms to teach elementary students how to code, and it was a lot of fun. And something I couldn't have done without technology by my side. Our screens allow us to come up with creative ways to educate and connect with others. As a whole, Girl Scouts has allowed me to build resilience and self-assurance as I completed my bronze, silver, and gold awards. I also learned vital collaboration, communication, and problem-solving skills that have allowed me to grow as a leader. What truly excites us about the future is the limitless possibilities that lie ahead. Gen Z girls are the future leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who will shape the world. We're excited about breaking down barriers and creating inclusive societies where diversity is celebrated, not just tolerated. We're a generation that refuses to be defined by stereotypes or limitations. In conclusion, we see a world full of potential, and we are ready to seize it. So let us not underestimate the power of this generation. Thank you. I hope you found today's forum awe-inspiring. Thank you to our sponsors, the Mary Lazarus Legacy and Civic Engagement Fund, ROCKS Ruling Our Experiences, the Girl Scouts of Ohio's Heartland, Battelle, and the YWCA Columbus, and thank you to the Ellis for its support. We want to thank our virtual seat patrons, hello, and the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation, the Columbus Dispatch, for presenting today's live stream. Our very special appreciation to today's panels, Mercy Kayla Avila, Lillian Corpian Morgan, Frankie Madowski, Olivia Graham, and our host, Miss Camille Seals. Please, please make plans now to attend next week's forum, Facing Hate, Finding Hope, America's LGBTQ+ community under attack, here at the Ellis. We hope to see you there, and have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you again.